Hello and welcome to Weekend File on the NTA. We are live in Abuja. The new Omicron variant of COVID-19 poses the latest challenge and threat to global health. Omicron comes with more energy, tactics and above all camouflage, as it is asymptomatic, which makes it very dangerous. First detected in South Africa in November, Omicron is fast spreading around the world. It is in 38 countries, with early data suggesting the strain is more contagious. As we speak, COVID researchers the world are working at breakneck speed to learn about the variant's transmissibility, severity and ability to evade vaccines. In Nigeria, 3 cases are being bandied as presence of Omicron in the country, in addition to the Delta variant. This has prodded the federal government in taking decisive actions, including compelling all civil servants to be compulsorily vaccinated. Government has also released a revised international travel protocol effective Sunday, December 5, 2021. The review of the protocol was based on science, national experience and global development. Furthermore, the federal government has approved COVID-19 booster shots as from 10th of this month. The issue before Nigerians, therefore, is to comply with all COVID-19 safety protocols, even as tracking victims of the Delta variant in the country remains a challenge. These and more call for collective responsibility on the part of all Nigerians. The conversation continues tonight on Weekend File as we bring you situation reports from across the Federation, plus studio session with Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. I am Kenen Ima Abodike. Let's view the news first. Let's begin by telling you that the federal government has promised to collaborate more effectively with the private sector towards improving the nation's business climate as the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement comes into full effect. President Muhammadu Buhari, who stated this at a trade and investment forum in Dubai, also assured prospective investors of full support towards ensuring that their investment ideas become a reality. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu has the details.
The Nigeria Trade and Investment Forum was put together by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment in partnership with the Nigerian Arabian Gulf Chamber of Commerce to market Nigeria's policy thrust, economic agenda and investment opportunities. The unique forum provides an opportunity for robust networking and building bridges with potential global partnerships towards expanding the frontiers of a win-win cooperation.
This investment forum, therefore, presents a unique opportunity to share the richness of our cultures, demonstrate the potentials of our economies, as well as celebrate our accomplishments on the global stage. This will enable us to collectively chart a course for the next decade of sustainable development.
It is our hope that the robust conversation and engagement shall stimulate an interest of our investors and business community towards improving direct investment and the promotion of the trust and confidence between Nigeria and the Arabian Gulf communities.
President Muhammadu Buhari appreciated the UAE government, captains of industry and entrepreneurs for their unwavering commitment to strengthen trade and investment relations with Nigeria through various initiatives.
Nigeria's pavilion at Expo 2020 clearly shows why we remain the most viable and attractive investment destination in Africa. Our location, our natural resources, our population, and our regulations are there for all to see. Nigeria on its way to becoming a leading industrial and trading nation in Africa.
Already, he said, policies, projects and programs that support private sector investors have been prioritized, while numerous fiscal incentives and infrastructure projects have been introduced towards enhancing the viability of investments.
Most of Africa's challenges, whether security, economic, or corruption can be traced to our inability to domesticate the production of our most basic requirements and provide jobs to our teeming and dynamic youth population. I am pleased that this forum focuses on unveiling trade and investment opportunities in Nigeria. I will encourage you all to keep an open mind and look beyond the challenges. I look forward to welcoming you all to Nigeria very soon.
Key UAE government officials who delivered messages of goodwill at the event acknowledged the unique attributes of Nigeria, saying as one of the fastest growing economies and regional power, the country's future is bright and promising.
Nigeria is a great economy. Reforms today is the ball game.
We look forward to strengthening cooperation with Nigeria to ensure greater economic progress and build a stronger economic future for both countries.
Zamfara State has a lot of potential, particularly in terms of mineral resources, and we start discussing with some investors who are willing to come to Zamfara State and invest.
We came here to talk to more investors and to attract them to come and invest in Kaduna and create jobs.
The volume of trade between Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates as at the end of 2019 stood at $1.4 billion. From Dubai, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The federal government has again reiterated its commitment to save jobs and ensure youths are gainfully employed in legitimate activities through the nation's Sustainable Economic Plan. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo gave assurance during an engagement at the Warata Palace, Bida, Niger State. Jones Ajayi reports.
Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who was in Bida to attend the turbaning ceremony of the Deputy Chairman of the House Committee on Finance, Saidu Musa Abdul, as the Gorazon Nupe said, government will continue to prioritize agricultural growth and development.
Between July and September 2021, agriculture contributed 30% of Nigeria's total GDP. Nupe land, with its vast farmlands and extensive farming activities, is key to delivering this figure, and we will continue to work with key stakeholders and the people to effectively tackle insecurity challenges in order to achieve a peaceful and prosperous society.
He paid glowing tribute to the Etunupe and Chairman, Niger State Council of Traditional Rulers, Alhaji Yaya Abubakar, for his role in uniting the Nupe tribe and promoting socio-cultural heritage of the country. The Etunupe appreciated the Vice President for the honor done Nupe land and conferred the title of Garkonya Nupe on Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Jones Ajayi, NTA News.
Let's now talk security, as 66 participants of the Executive Intelligence Management Course 14 of the National Institute for Security Studies are now battle-ready to tackle the security challenges in the country. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and the First Lady, Aisha Buhari, were at the graduation ceremony of the participants of the 2021 EIMC 14 in Abuja. State House correspondent Aliyu Kabir reports.
Drawn from various security agencies and other MDAs, the 66 participants were conferred with the Fellow of the Security Institute of Nigeria. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said their task is enormous, particularly with the current security situation of the country. He explained that the government upgraded the school to a state of national institute to enable it to contribute positively towards addressing the security challenges of the country. He emphasized the need for international agency collaboration and the use of modern technology and strategies for the accomplishment of the task ahead.
Indeed, given the resource constraints that we face, we cannot afford to wait for the threats to become manifest dangers before we react. Our intelligence service must be proactive rather than reactive, ahead of the curve rather than behind it. Threats must be identified and addressed well before they evolve into manifest perils. It's a very heavy burden indeed, but the truth is that the intelligence community, by the very nature of its mandate, is charged with being several steps ahead of the rest of us. This requires a high capacity for imagination.
The First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Buhari, commended the management of the Institute for equipping the participants with the relevant knowledge and skills and urged the graduating students to put it into practice, the knowledge acquired for the betterment of the society. She also recognized the remarkable resilience of the female participants.
I commend the efforts of Nigeria Institute for Security Studies and would like to once again encourage them to promote culture of gender parity and ensure equal opportunities for both men and women in terms of admission and other activities in line with the United Nations Security Council 1325.
We have to be at the cutting edge of all the knowledge, all the information, and all the technology that is required to address security threats in the 21st century.
Our graduation is apt, especially at this time of security threats, especially in the northeast of the country.
And I pray God that they get out there and be the change agents that they have been trained to be.
The 10-month 2021 Executive Intelligence Management Course 14 also attracted participants from other African countries. I am Aliyu Kabir, NTA News.
New strategies must be adopted to be ahead of the criminals if the current security challenges must be won. This was the advice from security experts at the graduation ceremony of the 10-month Executive Intelligence Course 14 of the National Institute of Security Studies, Abuja. Security correspondent Francis Fom reports that 66 participants graduated and now fellows of the institute.
You are now conferred with the Fellow of Security Institute.
10 months of executive training over. Time to apply their venom on the criminals. They are the Executive Course 14 participants of the National Institute of Security Studies. Rigorous preparation in governance, security, and sustainable development in Africa. Challenges and prospects form the content of the syllabus.
The overall objective of the course is to provide participants with broader outlook, intellectual depth, capacity to deliver effectively.
The President has given us the mandate, he has given us the support, financially and materially. We must do everything possible to reverse the current security challenges.
It is a class of no ranks, no discrimination, no preferential treatment, combination of civilians, security personnel and foreigners, but with the shared goals of intelligence gathering.
We are supposed to give back to our organization to justify the huge amount of money spent on us.
So grateful to be a part of this course. I'm better informed on how I can work with synergy with other relevant agencies and NTA to address critical issues for the nation.
We now have the expertise to enhance and even to implement the outcome of the review, which will be the National Program of Action.
Awards presented. Graduates unleashed for practicals, as it were, in their respective organizations. Karim Akim Olaumi of the DSS emerged the overall best, while Yusuf Lawal of JAM emerged the best in project and the best behaved participant. More credentials to their files, from the commandant of the institutes to the graduates. Best of luck. Franks is from NTA News.
Normalcy has returned to Ngomari Airport Ward and 1,000 housing estate in Maiduguri metropolis after early morning explosions that rocked the areas. No life was lost as a result of the blast, although a young girl who sustained minor injuries had already been treated. Abubakar Mohammed Musa reports.
The explosions occurred around 6 a.m. when residents of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, were still indoors preparing for the monthly sanitation exercise. The explosives, suspected to be projectiles, landed on house number 2589 at the estate and another building at Gomari Airport, severely damaging both houses. An eyewitness who spoke to NTA News off camera said when he heard the sound of the first explosion, he rushed out of his house to know what was happening. Then the second one exploded close to his compound. On his way rushing inside, he saw the rocket Then he concluded that it was an attack. No life was lost as a result of the blast, although a young girl who sustained minor injuries had already been treated. NTA News could not independently verify where the rockets emanated from, nor what their targets were. The last of such attack was in February this year, where dozens of people were killed in multiple rocket attacks in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. Meanwhile, Governor Babagana Umar Zulum has visited scenes of the attack, where he condemned the act in totality, describing it as a sabotage to the ongoing reconstruction and resettlement drive of government.
We have to fortify Maiduguri town. We have to ensure that adequate patrols are being undertaken on a daily basis to avert future occurrence of such a dastardly act.
He directed that a detailed report should be presented to him on the extent of damages in the two areas and announced that all the basic amenities needed will be provided at 1,000 housing estate. In Maiduguri, Abubakar Muhammad Musa, NTA News.
In line with its role of promoting international peace and regional security, Nigerian Army has deployed troops to provide medical support to United Nations peace mission in Mali, a West African country facing humanitarian crisis. Suleiman Rigachikun reports.
The troops made up of 62 Army medical personnel trained at the Martin Luther Agway International Leadership and Peacekeeping Center, Jaji, are now better equipped to protect UN equipment and the host nation within their area of responsibility while carrying out the mission's mandate.
The troop went through mission-specific training, which was undertaken to impart practical knowledge on mission environment, mandate, tasks, cultures of the host nation, and other specific training, such as rules of engagement through scenario-based exercises.
Mali, a West African country, has been facing humanitarian crisis since a coalition of terrorist groups attacked and captured some of her territories in 2012. This situation led to the deployment of African Union and French forces, which later transformed into the UN mission with Security Council mandate, which included protection of civilians. Suleiman Rigachikun, NTA News.
Still talking security, the intensified efforts of the operatives of the Katsina Area Command of the Nigeria Customs Service has led to the interception of combat knives smuggled into the country along Katsina axis. Shehu Adamu brings us that report.
Acting controller of the Katsina Area Commander of the Nigeria Customs Service, Al-Hawad Achedi, while displaying the intercepted 180 foreign jackknives of different sizes, said they were concealed inside belts of smuggled baby wares.
This is a weapon, which in a normal situation, even if you are to, that is, if you are able to import this in a normal situation, you have to look for what? End user certificate, because this is a weapon. And the only authority you can get the, what do you call it, end user certificate is from Mission Security Advisor.
Controller Al-Hawad Achedi explained that the command has within the month of November intercepted a vehicle along Katsina to Jibia Road with a sum of 71 million naira concealed, saying after a preliminary investigation, the case was transferred to the headquarters of the Nigeria Customs Service for further investigation. Among other smuggled contraband seized by the command within the period under review include 281 bags of foreign rice of 50 kilograms each, 498 cartons of spaghetti, 7 cartons of macaroni, 22 jerry cans of vegetable oil. Controller Al-Hawad Achedi also said the command intercepted 230 parcels of substance suspected to be cannabis sativa, which was handed over to the Katsina Command of the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency. The duty-paid value of all the contraband intercepted is over 176 million naira. In Katsina, Shehu Adamu, NTA News.
Away from security matters now, for 5 years and still counting, Accountability Lab, a civil society organization, has been a strong voice in the federal government's anti-corruption crusade with advocacy for integrity in public service. Joshua Ojito reports that the advocacy is to name famous public servants who distinguish themselves in their workplaces.
From the pool of more than 1,000 public servants randomly nominated across the country, only 5 made it to the Hall of Fame as Integrity Icons of the Year. 2 officers of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, a staff of the Corporate Affairs Commission, and another from the Raw Materials Research and Development Council, and 1 from the Akwa Ibom State Ministry of Justice also made it to the famous list. Their penchant for integrity was the only ticket that stood them out.
I will not relent. I will continue in my principle of being accountable not only to myself but to my God.
Integrity pays. It is good for you to be known for one thing, inside and outside.
Whether private sector, public sector, there are some level of integrity expected of you because there are do's and don'ts there. So when you do the right thing, definitely there's going to be reward.
Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, Bureau of Public Service Reforms, and other partners are supporting the campaign to ensure corruption-free public service system.
People are beginning to see that, yes, 1 or 2 people in different parts of the country are delivering service to citizens without any form of competition, without any form of bribe, without any form of bad behavior.
So far, 25 public servants have won the Integrity Icon Award in the last 5 years. Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
Now, the unskilled and unemployed in Nigeria have been advised to take advantage of the programs of the National Directorate of Employment, NTA, to become self-employed. Minister of State, Labour and Employment Festus Kayamo said this in a message at the NDA Special Day at the ongoing 42nd Kano International Trade Fair. Muhammad Ali reports.
Over 3 decades, the National Directorate of Employment has been providing job opportunities for unskilled youth in the country through its skills acquisition programs. In the last 1 year, the Directorate has made significant impact in job creation and employment generation, apart from the 774,000 extended special public works. Minister of State Labour and Employment, represented by the Director General NDE, Abubakar Nufibo, at a special day in Kano Trade Fair says, government cannot provide job for all, hence the need for entrepreneurs at a platform like this to interact, share ideas, develop future business strategies, which is critical to NDE. Other stakeholders commended the zeal of the present administration in diversifying the economy through various agricultural programs.
We are into training, and we've been training unemployed Nigerians, and that these trainees who have graduated have the capacity, to go out and establish and really be productive in order to produce services or products for which they have been trained.
The 42nd Kano Trade Fair has the theme Consolidating the Challenges of COVID-19 to Opportunities for Growth and Development of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises in Nigeria. Muhammad Ali, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari condoles with the family of former Supreme Court Judge Bolarinwa Babalaki, who passed on Saturday at the age of 94. The president equally commiserates with the government and the people of Osun State on the loss of the eminent jurist who rose to the pinnacle of his profession as a judge of the highest court in the land, becoming one of the final authorities in legal issues in the country, thereby greatly enriching the nation's jurisprudence. While praying for Dr. Babawale Babalaki's son, other children and members of the family for the fortitude to bear the loss, President Buhari urges them to take consolation in the fact that the deceased lived to a ripe old age, left behind a good name, served as a mentor and source of inspiration to many, and became an icon of his profession. The president prays that Almighty Allah will reward his good deeds with Al-Jannah. Thanks for staying with us on Weekend File. Omicron is the COVID-19 variant on the lips of everyone, with early studies indicating that a mutant may be more transmissible than previous variants such as Delta. Nigeria is leaving nothing to chance. Betari even brings us up to speed on containment measures by the Nigerian authorities.
As
As at 4th December, Omicron has been detected in 38 countries, but no death reported yet from the new COVID-19 variant. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control so far has detected 3 cases of the variant in Nigeria. The Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 acknowledges that stopping the spread of the new variant is a tall order. Hence, the focus is on reducing the risks of importation and exportation through a review of international travel protocols. PCR test validity period has been reduced to 48 hours before departure for all inbound travelers, while anyone leaving the country must produce valid evidence of full vaccination against COVID-19 or a negative PCR test result obtained within 48 hours from the time of boarding.
In all of our points of entry, the airports, the seaports, and even the land border, we have health officials that are working. We've heightened our surveillance system. All cases that are positive now, that are new, we subject them to genomic sequencing to determine what variant we are dealing with.
The Yuletide, with prevailing environmental conditions and high travel volume, is a critical period, and taking precaution cannot be overemphasized.
We know that by December, schools will be closed, so children who are studying abroad are going to come back. Many people take holidays, they want to come back to meet with their families. So even if people are vaccinated, they have to continue to take precaution.
Let's stick to the non-pharmaceutical interventions. That is the surest bet now against getting infected with COVID-19. It's the surest, I can tell you. Some of the trips are not necessary. Probably we are getting into the most severest part of COVID if we are not careful.
There are already discussions at the global stage as to whether the existing COVID-19 vaccines will have to be modified to fight Omicron and other mutants that could emerge. No doubt, there is still a lot to learn about the new COVID-19 variant. Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
And while experts across the world have continued to research on solutions, mutation of new variants have posed a challenge. From the Delta variant to the new Omicron variant, COVID-19 keeps reinventing itself. Adela Komiakere examines measures to decrease the risks of reinfections.
Omicron is another one that has just been designated a variant of concern. Not much is known about the virus, apart from the fact that it mutates faster than any other coronavirus ever known.
While some Nigerians readily took the complete dosage, with others waiting to complete theirs, there are some others who are still reluctant due to conspiracy theories flying around, mostly on social media.
I wouldn't take it. You don't want to take something you are not totally sure about.
I don't really believe that it's really a vaccine that can prevent the COVID-19.
I don't rush things just because everybody is doing it. And until I'm well convinced about it, of which I am right now, I'll definitely get my vaccine.
According to medical experts, ending the pandemic is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. With the fear of reinfection, how often can it occur? Will it be severe? Who are those at higher risk of infection?
The concern around Omicron has been the potential it has in terms of the amount of mutations it has gathered and what theoretically it can do. Which has conferred ease of transmission. Potentially it should be able to bypass or be less the immune response from previous infections and from vaccination may be less effective. It doesn't mean it's not effective, it will be less effective compared to the other ones that have gone before.
Medical practitioners and government have continuously emphasized on the salient ways to reduce the spread of the virus. Vaccination is said to be the major way to decrease the likelihood of infection, hospitalization, and deaths. In Lagos, Adeola Komiakere, NTA News.
The Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, is in the studio with us tonight. You're welcome to Weekend File.
Thank you very much.
The fear is back again. People are getting agitated. People are getting worried. We've seen COVID-19. We also saw Delta variant, which we are still battling with, and now this deadly one, so to speak, Omicron. But it is even more fearful that NCDC too has confirmed 3 cases so far in the country. I think let's look at the contact tracing of these people. Do you have them at the moment, and how do we contain the spread of it since we have 3 cases already?
Thank you very much, Kenneth, for your questions. We were able to identify these cases because just like with Delta, or since the advent of the pandemic, there have been measures put in place in terms of surveillance for both the population and for travelers. So the existing surveillance system for travelers, in accordance to the travel advisory, working as it should, picked up these 3 cases with the variant who, as we said, had history of travel from South Africa. And what usually happens when we find cases like this is there's activation of or implementation of an incident plan or incident management plan, and that is ongoing. These people were identified, isolation is being put in place, contact tracing continues, isolation and follow-up testing for high-risk contacts remains in place, and we are looking forward to the conclusion of that process, even as we continue surveillance for all incoming travelers and even other people who have indication to be tested for COVID.
And then, of course, the WHO, United Nations Health Agency, and so on and so forth are all battling, with this present variant, even as the Delta variant is still causing or wreaking havoc here and there. So back here in Nigeria, of course, you've seen the measures already being taken by the federal government to ensure that at least people are safe. Now, coming from the point of view of the NCDC, what do you think we need to do further?
Well, we're having basically the same incident like we saw with Delta. We are dealing with a pathogen that's rapidly evolving, that is changing, and we continue to implement time and tested measures. The NCDC's response as part of the federal government response or as part of the technical advice we give still revolves around 3 or 4 pillars, which really don't change regardless of what new variants may emerge or not. So surveillance is important. Ongoing surveillance in terms of ramping up testing in the country was already happening even before the announcement of the new variant broke. We have rolled out rapid diagnostic testing kits just in a bit to also make testing a bit more accessible and quicker rather than the sort of more laborious or longer PCR tests. As was already said in some of the reports we had, testing is already scaled up at the port of entries for land, for sea, in the airports, even in preparation for the increased travel and traffic we expect in the Yuletide. So it was good that we were already in that preparatory phase and implementing before news of the variant broke. And it means that we are slightly better prepared, or now we have more impetus to continue to bolster and strengthen those measures. Surveillance also includes genomic surveillance, which has been in place, and what we have actually done again since the news of the new variant broke is to try and ramp up, even do the surveillance more quickly, assure completeness, use more resources in the network of labs that can do sequencing. I think usually the recommendation is that you do maybe up between 80 and 150 sequences per week. And in the time since this news has broken, we've actually processed 90 samples already, and there's even more in the pipeline, and even more will be done even as we distribute samples across the genomic surveillance network. We already have had enough about vaccines, so in addition to surveillance, both for cases testing and for genomics, which is looking at the genetic material of the virus, we're also looking at vaccines. You've heard all the news about vaccines. If people ask about what actions should you take, should you ban, should you do all of that, people highlight more of the travel bans or red listing that is happening, but also remember that many of the countries who were sort of looking up to for response, they are also ramping up vaccination. So can we please talk about vaccination a bit? Can we recognize that even ahead of the news of this variant, the government is already trying to put in place measures to increase uptake of vaccinations? There's a mass vaccination campaign. There are mandates for civil servants to assure their protection and protection of everybody else in the workplace. And now even the travel advisory has been revised to also ensure that we don't only protect ourselves by watching people who come into country, but we also protect the rest of the world, because we are all in one interconnected space, from the risk of transmission of this pathogen, and even to increase uptake of vaccine and contribute more to our own protection. So what we need citizens to do is, we can put in place regulations, we can put in place guidance, but we need citizens to use them. There's no point having enough vaccine doses if people don't turn up to be vaccinated.
And there is also the booster shots.
And there's now the booster shots, which we've also made a decision about, just in tandem, and even thinking of that was already happening before announcements were made.
Okay.
What we now need as a final point is public health measures, safety measures need to come back. We have really relaxed. Mask use, hand washing, distancing, and all the like have become rather infrequent because we are tired. There's pandemic fatigue, and we understand that. But what we have now been reminded of with this variant is the battle is not over.
Yes.
Those simple, time-tested safety measures, as the SGF has highlighted, are important, and they are all under our control to do.
All right, we'll talk some more on Omicron and the rest. Kano State COVID-19 Task Force will soon commence mass mobilization in all the 44 local government areas of the state to meet up with the federal government's target of 40% coverage before the year ends. Elizabeth Yela Lamido reports that about 20 more vaccination centers will be added to the current 149 to ensure efficiency.
With the emergence of the new COVID-19 variant, Omicron, Kano State government is re-strategizing towards curtailing the spread of this deadly virus. However, it is becoming more challenging due to the laxity of the public. This is a market day in Takai village, where traders from within and surrounding villages bring their goods for sale, engaging in transactions unperturbed of the dangers associated with such close contact.
I have a mask. It's in my pocket. I just need fresh air.
Since the commencement of the vaccination in March, about 149 COVID-19 vaccination centers were opened across the state. This is one of the COVID-19 vaccination centers located in Muhammadu Abdullahi Wasi Teaching Hospital. In the first phase of the exercise, 7,000 persons were vaccinated right here in this center. And at the second phase, about 2,067 persons were vaccinated. NTA crew also sampled people's opinions.
I didn't trust the vaccine. Many people I say is not well okay.
I haven't taken any. I just don't need it.
I believe my God, nothing will happen to me, to my family.
Yes, we still encounter such pockets of resistance, of misinformation and rejection. However, we plan several activities so that people get enlightened. And with the enlightenment we've been doing compared to when we started vaccination, I would say there is drastic reduction in such rumors.
Despite being the most populous state in Nigeria, only about 500,000 persons have so far been vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus. From Kano, Elizabeth Yila, NTA News.
Let's continue our discussion with Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, DG NCDC. While the safety protocols are a must for now, and it appears to be the only way out, how do we look at other areas from our own Nigerian scientists at the moment? Shouldn't it be the time for us to begin to look towards that angle and see how far we can go?
Yes, science, research and development are essential for not just for disease control, but even data and knowledge, as we can see from this pandemic and the new currency, the new oil. We've got a bit of a lag due to limited investments in the past, but this is being ramped up, and more investment in research and enabling our scientists and our university lecturers and academics to do a bit more is presently in the works, and there are various schemes, including, for example, the African Development Bank World Centers of Excellence. So I'm sure everybody knows about the Center of Excellence for Genomics of Infectious Diseases in Eden. That's one such investment, and as a result of that investment, we know that that institution, for example, is quite ahead of the curve in terms of genomics of infectious disease pathogen. But there are emerging work being done in the University of Ibadan in terms of antimicrobial resistance, and in other parts of the country. There's a Center of Excellence for Population Health Research, for example, in Kano. And in the context of the work that the NCDC does and the strengthening and support for the establishment of molecular biology laboratories in many parts of the country, well, first of all, of course, driven by the need to test for COVID, but the molecular biology platform allows you opportunities to do all sorts of work, including antimicrobial resistance and all of that. So that also is an enablement that provides a platform to hopefully achieve a bit more impetus in terms of our research output.
Very quickly, tell us, COVID-19, Delta, Omicron, this mutation, is it going to end anytime soon?
The simple answer is no, and not specifically for COVID. What people do not know in the background is that all of these pathogens are multiplying all the time, especially viruses, and coming up with new variants all the time. It's strictly a matter of survival. They want to survive, they want to reproduce, and to do that, they need to infect the next person, reproduce, and infect the next person. Mutations arise when, in the course of that transfer or transmission and reproduction, errors happen in the genetic code. And sometimes those errors confer on the virus, on the bug, a bit of an advantage for survival, and then it means they spread further. Okay, so this happens all the time, and really the key way to prevent that from happening is, of course, to prevent transmission or reduce transmission to the barest minimum.
Exactly. We want to sincerely thank you, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, for coming on.